We are back in the years 1983 and 1984 as we continue our look at the Return of the Jedi toy line by Kenner. In our previous episode, we checked out the Evil Empire Speeder Bike and Biker Scout, the main troops patrolling the forest moon of Endor. In addition to these forces, the Empire also had all-terrain scout transports, or ATSTs, on patrol. Piloted by ATST drivers, these two-legged scout walkers are far more dangerous than speeder bikes. And today, we'll be taking a look at not one, but two toys. That's right, it's another double toy review as we take a look at the ATST driver from 1984 and the Scout Walker itself from 1983, here on Creed's Collection. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Creed's Collection. Today we are looking at the Imperial Scout Walker and ATST driver from the Return of the Jedi toy line by Kenner. The Scout Walker was first produced in 1982 for the Empire Strikes Back toy line, even though it's only on screen for less than 3 seconds in that film. The Scout Walker wasn't fully featured until the end battle on the forest moon of Endor during the 1983 film Return of the Jedi. And even though they weren't nearly as formidable as they seemed like they should be, this is still an amazing toy, and I can't wait for you to take a closer look. But before we do that, let's check out the ATST driver. So even though the Scout Walker was first produced in 1982, we didn't see an ATST driver until the second wave of Return of the Jedi figures in 1984. I really wish they would have named him Scout Walker driver or called the Scout Walker an ATST, because the way it is, it's kind of inconsistent. That's okay though, that's just my OCD kicking in. So as we get closer in, you can see he's got a pretty good face sculpt, and one thing I like about this guy is he's one of the few Imperial troops to not wear a full face mask. And other than a few tiny paint blemishes, this figure is in fantastic shape. His joints are even still really tight. I like how plain his outfit is, gray and black, that's it. Although it does have this cool detailing on the side here of the Imperial symbol, something you don't see on many of the troops. Star Wars figures have 5 points of articulation. They have 2 at the hip that can rotate up to 90 degrees. They have 2 at the shoulder. They can rotate back and forth. And then their head can look left and right. And that is all 5 points of articulation. The back of the ATST driver's legs has his copyright information. Lucasfilm Limited 1984, made in Taiwan. And now for the main event, we're taking a look at the Scout Walker itself. This is an 11-inch tall, super cool mech walker loaded to the gills with cannons and play features. I inherited this from my older cousin when he decided he was too old to play with toys. Thank you, Patrick. I really appreciate it, because boy did I play with this thing like crazy. But like all my toys, I was careful to try to take care of it, not break it. By the time I got it, it was missing a few pieces, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. Here's a look at the back of the leg, show more of the details. And as usual, Kenner knocked this one out of the park. The Star Wars vehicles were always super impressive. Here's a better look at the back. You can actually see the switch that allows it to go from walking and standing mode and the button that kicks the legs, but we'll show that more in a second. Here's a better look at the left side of the head, and these guns on the side of the head can be rotated up or down. They have a nice ratchet articulation, so they actually click into place as you move them. The right side of the head is pretty much identical to the left side, and the chin-mounted gun here is a double cannon that has a 90-degree articulation. It can rotate all the way straight down and back up. Here's the back of the Scout Walker head where they packed even more detail, and here's a quick look at the interior of the cockpit. That's the back of the seat where his head would be, and right here this is the front where you actually see there is a view screen that looks like it's looking out on the forest moon of Endor. And if you look to the bottom left, there's an orange sticker there that looks a lot like a targeting computer. Now we're going to take a look at the walking feature. This switch here can be slid over, and then it's in walk mode, and you would push this button when you do that. So basically, you just grab it like this, pop it over, it releases the legs and the button, and now when you push it in, it makes the legs kick like it's walking. I'm famous for not liking play features like this, but this one is actually pretty awesome. Now check out some of the pieces that I'm missing. Right here on the bottom you can see there's a piece that plugged in, and it had 2 armor plates that would come up and cover the chest. I never had this piece because I didn't get it when I got the toy from my older cousin, and I didn't even realize it existed until I started doing this review. This is what it looks like. Now I'm also missing the top door and hatch. Right there on each side is where the hinges went, and it would close over like so. and then there was a gun on the front and a hatch right in the center that could pop open. Once again, these are pieces I never owned, but here's a picture of what they looked like. I'll tell you what, missing that top hat sure makes it easier for Ewoks to hijack Scout Walkers. It's quiet. Too quiet. Oh, that doesn't sound good. Is anybody down there? The copyright date is located on the bottom of the Scout Walker, Lucasfilm Limited, 1982. The one problem I ran into with this toy is I'm not sure if it was actually produced in 82 or 83 because they were produced both years, but both had a 1982 copyright date. So I'm choosing to believe that this is a Return of the Jedi Scout Walker, even though it's entirely possible it's from Empire Strikes Back, but I could not find a way to tell. And now for our He-Man size comparison. While He-Man is much larger than the AT-ST driver, he is way smaller than the Scout Walker. But with Star Wars happening a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, neither one of them ever have to worry about crossing paths. Everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to watch my toy review for the Scout Walker and the AT-ST driver from the 1983 and 84 Return of the Jedi toy line by Kenner. While the AT-ST driver came from my mother, as I already mentioned, the actual Scout Walker came from my cousin Patrick. I'll never forget that day when I opened all those toys from him. I already had a pretty extensive toy collection, but man, that day I hit the toy lottery and added so much more. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a thumbs up. And if you have any thoughts, please leave a comment. I love reading and responding to them. And while you're at it, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it, and it would help my channel grow. I review a toy from my vintage collection every Wednesday, so hope to see you next week and every week after, here on KREED'S Collection.